my name is Kelsey Morris, and I'm a member of the PBIS Applications Training Team. Today I'm going to take time to walk you through an overview of the navigations and features that exist within SAMI, School Account Management Interface. SAMI is the main application and the main tool that SWIS facilitators use to manage their schools, their account subscriptions, and user access levels. Here I'm located at the pbisapps.org website. It's the main homepage for all the PBIS apps application and information. Up in the black app bar at the top, you can see that I'm logged in to the demo account. This is where I can either log in, log out, and access more information about my account. I've already entered my username and password, which is what you would normally see here in this black box. Over on the left-hand side, I can either go back to the main homepage by clicking on PBIS Apps Home, or I can click on any of the different accounts that I have access to. Today we're going to be talking about SAMI, so I'm going to click on SAMI. Here I'm at the main page of SAMI, which stands for SWIS Account Management Interface. It's how you as a SWIS facilitator facilitate, manage, and work with the schools that you use. Here on the left-hand side, I have a list of all the schools that are attached to me as a facilitator. Demonstration School Challenged and Demonstration School Exemplar. I'm going to click on Demonstration School Exemplar, and in doing so, I have some information about them. I can see the last time they logged in, if they have access to CICO, which stands for Check-in, Check-out SWIS, and if they have access to ISIS SWIS, which is the SWIS version for Individualized Intensive Interventions. I can click on Login, and that takes me directly to this school's SWIS account, so I begin analyzing their data and various reports. Or I can click on the Manage button, and this is how I manage users, access levels, and a variety of other information attached to this school. I'm going to click on Manage, and in doing so, it opens up on the right-hand side of the screen more information about this school. I also have different tabs that allow me to do different things that pertain to my role as a SWIS facilitator. For instance, I can click on the blue tab for Manage and manage information about the school, its users, its contacts, and its staff members. I can click on the blue tab for Reports, and I can get an activity overview or some data reports. I can click on Subscription and have more information about the accounts that the school has, what applications they have subscribed to, and any cancellations they may have had. We're going to start at the beginning with managing. So I'm going to click on the blue tab for Manage. The first thing that I see is school information, the school name, its mailing address, its physical address, and other information pertinent to the school. If any of this information ever needs to be modified, I'm going to come to this space and click on any of the Modify buttons to modify that information. For instance, if I needed to reflect a change in grade levels, I could click on Modify, and I could now reflect what's appropriate. Maybe our starting grade is still kindergarten, but our ending grade is now 7th. So I could reflect that change here and click Submit to save that information. For our training purposes today, I'm going to cancel and go back. With any of the other information that's displayed here, clicking Modify allows me to edit and make changes as needed. However, with school name, that's something that I have to request a change for. It needs to be verified for its accuracy by SWIS and PBIS applications. Clicking on Request Change brings the Modify School Name Request workspace. It's going to tell me the current school name and give me a place to type in the new school name, what it needs to be changed to, and then I have an entry field here that I can enter the reason for the change. Anytime something is noted with a red asterisk, I know that it's required. So I have to put in the new school name and why the changes occurred. Once I have that information entered appropriately, I can click Submit, and SAMI will send an email to the SWIS Accounts team so that way they can begin verifying the information for its accuracy. For today, I'm going to cancel and go back. So this page here gives me more information about the school, so I can verify it for accuracy or modify as needed. Over here, I have more tabs that help me manage the school and its users and activity levels. If I click on Users, this brings up the list of people who have access to SWIS or CICO SWIS within this building. So I see Joe, Jim, Franny, and Laurie. There are 4 users in this building that have access to SWIS. You can easily see their username, and here in the last login column, that's where it would display the last time that user logged in. The columns for S and C stand for SWIS and CICO respectively. And then below in the cells that follow are the codes that tell me what access level that specific user has. For instance, if I look at Jim Blue and move across his row left to right, I can see that he's DE. And coming down to the table key at the bottom, I know DE stands for data entry. So Jim is the data entry person in this school for SWIS. If any of this information ever needs to be modified or changed, I can click the pencil button, and that's going to bring me to the user form. So I click the pencil button for Jim. Now I have user information about Jim. If I ever needed to change his password, this is where I would come to do that, or change his email. Down below, I can use the drop-down fields to grant Jim a new access level, depending upon the application. So he's currently a data entry person for SWIS. If I needed to make him a data entry person for CICO as well, I would use the drop-down menu and reflect that change. For the purposes of our training today, instead of clicking Submit to save it, I'm going to click Cancel and go back. User access levels is something that each school is going to want to have a conversation and a decision made upon at the beginning of each school year. We know that there is attrition in schools. Joe might have retired and is no longer going to be a designated reporter in our building. If so, I need to remove Joe from this list and remove his access level. To remove someone's access level, I click the red X. It's going to prompt me to confirm that this is truly a decision I want to make. If so, I click OK. For today, I'm going to click Cancel and go back. If I need to add a new user, maybe Joe did retire, and I need to bring on a new person to replace Joe in that role of reporter, I click Add User. This brings me to the Add User workspace. The first thing that I can do is enter that person's username, which is their email address, and SAMI will check to see if that person already exists as a pre-registered account. For example, if I put in John Doe at example.com, SWIS will search and see if that person exists. It's told me in that green pop-up notification that we saw briefly that that person does not already have an account, so it moved me to the Create New User form. Here I can put in the first name, last name, the user email is already in there, the password is something temporary that I'm going to set for this person initially, and then they'll change to something more permanent. I need to confirm that password again, so I enter it 2 times. I need to check this box here to say whether or not this person is a school staff member, and then I use the drop-down fields below to grant this person the appropriate access level. So if John is replacing our previous reporter, I can put in reporter, or I can put him in as a data analyst. Same for CICO. Once I've created my new user and given them the appropriate access levels, I click Submit to save. For our time together today, I'm going to cancel and go back. As I said before, schools will want to have conversations at the beginning of the year to make sure that the access levels that are already in SWIS are still appropriate for that new school year. Some things to think about as you're doing that is SWIS will allow you to put in a SWIS administrator, a data entry person, a data analyst, and a reporter. The SWIS administrator is essentially your super user. They have access to anything and everything within SWIS. The data entry person is the primary person who puts in the data. The data analyst and the reporter are essentially read-only roles. Those people have access to SWIS for the purposes of generating reports and analyzing that information and possibly bringing it back to a team-level meeting. If a school has CICO SWIS, there are also access types associated with that application, specifically CICO Administrator, Data Entry, Data Analyst, and Reporter. And if a school has an ISA SWIS subscription, they have the access types of Coordinator, School-Wide Read-Only, and User. Regardless of application, there are some guidelines to keep in mind as you're setting up an account and bringing on new schools. Here in the table at the top, we give some recommendations in terms of how many people should have that access type. And then down below, we give you some guiding questions to think through this process with the buildings that you work with. So we've talked about school info, we've talked about users. Let's click on contacts. Here in contacts, I can see different contact information for this school. Specifically, who's their SWIS contact, administrative contact, who's the person in the school that works with the billing, who is the person or the institution that's actually going to pay the bill, and then who's the assigned facilitator. Anytime I see the pencil icon or the words modify, that tells me I can click on it and modify that information and make changes as needed. However, for paying institution and assigned facilitator, those are things that have to be requested. Because again, our accounts team needs to verify that information for accuracy. For example, if Joseph Bowen had retired and was no longer the facilitator, he would need to click Request Change and send a notification to SWIS that a new facilitator needed to come on board. He'd click Request Change and it would take him to the Request New Facilitator workspace. Here, Joseph would type in the name of the next facilitator that needs to come into the system. If he typed in my name, Kelsey Morris, it would pull up more information about me, specifically the city and state. Only those people who are certified and trained SWIS facilitators will come up in this workspace. If, for example, Joseph typed in another person who was not associated as a SWIS facilitator, there would not be any information displayed. Only certified SWIS facilitators can be requested. So once Joseph has chosen his next SWIS facilitator, he would click Submit, and SAMI would send an electronic email to the accounts team so that way that change could be verified for accuracy and then reflected for the accounts appropriate. For our time together today, I'm going to cancel and go back. The fourth and final tab that I have on the left-hand side, working with the main Manage features, is Staff. Here I have a staff list associated with the school that's listed above, Demonstration School Exemplar. I can either begin typing into the field here and jump to a specific staff member, or I can scroll up and down and locate a staff member that I'm looking for specifically. The icon for pencil tells me that I can click on that and modify information about that staff member, and the red X icon tells me that I can click on it and remove that specific staff member. Going back to our blue tabs at the top, I'm going to click on Subscription. This is where I have information about this school, what applications they have subscribed to, as well as what applications they've canceled. I can see that this school subscribed and started SWIS in 2006. 3 years later, they added on CICO SWIS. And currently, they do not have a ISA SWIS subscription. If forever they needed to cancel a subscription, they would click the button for Request Cancellation. Doing so brings up a request cancellation workspace for the account in question. So this school, for instance, would like to request a cancellation for CICO SWIS. The workspace is prompting them to select a reason for cancellation and then to provide more information. We ask schools and users to do this so that way we can ultimately understand why you chose to move away from using SWIS, CICO SWIS, or ISA SWIS and move on to using something else. The information you provide in this space really helps us design a tool that is more comprehensive, more user-friendly and ultimately something you'd like to come back to. Up at the top, if I click on the tabs for My Account or Report a Problem, I can have more information and more features specific to my role as a SWIS facilitator. Clicking on My Account opens up information about me and my SAMI account. For instance, what organization am I affiliated with? Changing my SAMI password? What is my mailing address? And what is other contact information? Anytime I see the pencil icon, I can click Modify and change the information as needed, or I can request an official change. Clicking on Report a Problem is the primary way for you as a SWIS facilitator to let us know that something with an application isn't working as it's intended to. When that button is clicked, it brings up the Report a Problem page. Here you can type in your name, email address, school name, and specifically what operating system were you using, web browser, and browser version. Because maybe there is an issue with either the operating system or the web browser that is inhibiting your use of one of our applications. Once you have put in this information and described the bug or the problem that you're experiencing, clicking Send sends an immediate email to our support team so that way they can look into that and hopefully resolve the situation. I'm going to exit out of this Report a Problem and take us back to SAMI. So that's a quick overview of the different navigations and features that exist within SAMI.